Abraham, last night, before I went to sleep, I was listening to the recording of one of your seminars. And in that recording, you told a story about Jerry. And the story about Jerry was that he went to something in Canada many years ago, and he decided that in that thing, he wanted to have his picture taken with the Prime Minister. And he did his process and stayed in the vortex, and life took hold, and lo and behold, he got his picture taken with the Prime Minister of Canada.
In a totally different way than he planned. We'll tell you the story briefly. So, Jerry was he was a master of ceremony for a very large event. And it was in a stadium where thousands of people were gathering. And he knew that the Prime Minister would be there, and he thought, wouldn't it be nice if I had a picture of me with the Prime Minister? It would go very well in my portfolio. So he began telling people, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. And his friends, all of his normal friends, said, that's not possible. You're not going to have your picture taken with the Prime Minister. That's like the President of the United States. There will be security around. You're not going to get near the Prime Minister. And Jerry said, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. So he said it often enough because even though he was not using those words, the feeling of having his picture taken with the Prime Minister felt wonderful, and the feeling of not having it felt awful. In other words, failure, success. So I continued to say, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. He said it to everyone who came near him. The waitress would say, what would you like? And he would say, I would like 2 eggs, over easy, soft, and I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. It didn't matter who it was. He looked for opportunities to express it until he activated within himself a vibration of what he wanted that was literally undeniable. So then, in an out-of-the-vortex moment, he called a photographer and said, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister, and I want you to take the picture. And the man said, you're not going to have your picture taken with the Prime Minister. And Jerry said, yes, I am. I'm going to be the master of ceremony, and the dignitaries will all be on the stage, and I will walk across the stage, and I will trip. He has a very good tripping act he can do. I will trip, and I will fall into the lap of the Prime Minister, and he will reach up to catch me, and when he does, I'll grab his hand, and you get the shot. And the man said, if you'll pay me in advance. Because he really didn't think that Jerry would survive this experience, being the normal person that he was. But Jerry was undaunted. He was going to have his picture taken with the Prime Minister. And so he showed up at the event, and no one was there, just the Secret Service people checking out the stadium and all. And Jerry was there in this sea of seats. And there was one little lady sitting on the front row. And Jerry went right over and sat right next to her. There were only 2 people sitting in this huge stadium. And she said, hello. And Jerry said, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. And she said, you are? And Jerry said, yes, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. And she said, this is something that you really want, isn't it? And Jerry said, I'm going to have my picture taken with the Prime Minister. He's not normal. And she said, well, my son is one of the ministers of Parliament. I can arrange that for you if you would like. And so when they all got there, she set it up, and they have very wonderful pictures of Jerry with the Prime Minister. Because Jerry was going to have his picture taken with the Prime Minister. And all day, every day, there are desires that you hold and people all around you who don't believe that that is likely. And when you listen to the normal people who don't believe that that is likely, one of 2 things happens. Either they train you to not believe it's likely, or you feel resentful of them trying to hold you back. And in either case, you're out of the vortex, and in either case, you don't get what you want, you see. So
my question is this.
There's no time for you now.
There's always time for me. Jerry was working in a sort of a time-bounded situation where he was there with the Prime Minister for 2 days or a day or whatever it was, and so he was able to continue his thought process, and I know how seemingly strange events fall into place and things happen. I mean, that's totally my life, is lived like that. But my question is, what if you're trying to create something, but you're not in a time-bounded situation? It's something that could happen anytime. And you're...
Well, the advantage of the time goal caused him to focus with greater clarity.
Exactly.
Esther says to Jerry on a pretty regular basis, and proudly, I shine in a crisis. And we say, yes, because the crisis makes you focus.
Right.
So whatever it takes to cause you to focus, in other words, you can set your own boundaries if you want to. We're not big encouragers of that, because usually when you place time restrictions on things, while it might make you focus more, it usually makes you focus negatively more.
That was my point.
Because it makes you feel shortage of time. And that shortage of time or shortage of resources pulses pretty loud within you.
Yeah.
And it's easy for you to continue those vibrations even though you don't want to, and even though they don't serve you.
Yeah.
So we are not advocates at all about putting those restrictions. And yet, when you think about it, one of the things that makes this time-space reality so valuable to you is that it causes you to focus. In other words, your life causes you to focus. Your life causes you to focus, which causes you to ask. And that's a good thing.
How do you integrate time and the vortex?
Well, in the vortex, you are timeless in this sense. We know that's sort of hard to get your thoughts around. When you live in a dimension where we are rendezvousing at certain times, we are together for a certain amount of time, it does afford a large number of people to focus simultaneously and be productive in that way. But the most important thing to realize is that in all this conversation that we've been offering here today, with our primary objective being to help you understand the existence of the vortex and awaken within you a desire to be in there, is that when you are in alignment with all of the resources that create worlds, and when you are in alignment with all of the things that you've been asking for, when you are in alignment with all of those things, now the power of the universe is at your disposal. The leverage is just extreme. In other words, one who's in alignment with source or connected to that source energy or offering no resistance, or we're saying these in as many different ways as we can, or in the vortex. Someone in the vortex is more powerful than millions who are not. So your power, your leverage is in the vortex. And that's why it's so interesting. So many people remain ornery, remain overwhelmed, and justifiably so, in the sense they're not making it up. But as they bang around outside the vortex, working hard, haven't you ever been in a hurry and that's when you spill coffee on you and then you go back to change your clothes and then the button falls off and then you put a different blouse on and you snag it as you go out the door and you put on your shoe and you realize you've got something on it, so you go back for other shoes, and when you bend over for them it messes your hair up, and then you go in to fix your hair and you get toothpaste on your sleeve, and then you're wiping toothpaste off your sleeve and you realize there was something else on the towel that's now on you, so then you go in to change your jacket now and the jacket doesn't match that blouse, so then you put a different blouse on and then you put a different jacket on, and then you go back and now your hair is really a mess, and now you're 15 minutes later than you were before, and on and on and on and on it goes. In other words, and you just want to stop and count to 10 and get in the vortex and regroup. In other words, when something begins to go a little bit wrong, stop and breathe and meditate and appreciate and do anything you can do to get in the vortex. And if you do that consistently, you'll have time. Ideas come to you. Clarity comes to you. In other words, if Esther gets in the vortex, then the book begins to come. But if she's out there saying, I got to do it, and I've got to set the time aside, and oh, the phone won't stop ringing, and I've got to put myself in seclusion, and you're breathing too loud. She'll even say to Jerry, your thoughts are keeping me awake. You're thinking. In other words, when you're outside the vortex, nothing can go well, you see. And when you're inside the vortex, everything does. You have power and energy and alignment. Good time for a segment of refreshment.